What is the best case of you just fucked with the wrong person you've witnessed? Once while my dad was on a trip, in the middle of winter our furnace broke. My mom went down to the basement and checked out the situation. She figured out what was broken and called a repair guy to tell him what she had found. The repair guy was on speakerphone. I held the phone while my mom held a flashlight and inspected the furnace. I'll never forget the look on her face when she finished her initial explanation and the guy replied with, "Why don't you put your husband on the phone, sweetie?" She snatched the phone from my hand and shooed me out before she cussed him out, so I never got to hear her exact words, but I imagine he got an earful. There is nothing better than telling some snotty smarmus or salesman, "On my porch, I am the head of this household. Now get off my property. I'm a woman in my 20s with a baby face." But like, I also do that at my parents' house, though recently the solar panel dudes have been in my neighborhood and started skipping my place because I went with dude. This is a rental. Anything to get my house on the skip list. Mechanical engineer and female here. I love having mechanics and technicians condescend towards me. I didn't witness it, but I got first-hand accounts and saw the police report. Bob was a delivery driver at Domino's and was a little off his rocker. Kind of older, upper 60s, maybe all the way to 70, and the kind of guy who would cut out a 10-year-old to make a point, but also gave away our cancelled orders at the end of the night to homeless people. Anyways, Bob's delivering a pizza and gets mugged. The robber walked up and hit Bob in the head with a brick, dropped the brick, took his cash, and took the pizza. Bob got up, took the brick, and proceeded to mug him back, and then called the police. The gangbanger in his 20s was too terrified of the pizza man in his 70s to run away and waited to be arrested. Bob got up, took the brick, and proceeded to mug him back. No you. Lol. The gang member probably thought he was a weak old man. Didn't expect the guy to bounce back and trade blows with him. In my mind, I'm picturing Bob yelling, "You forgot this," and lobbing the brick straight back at Mugger's head as he runs away. My boss invited a handful of us over to her house for some beers and burgers one Friday night. Her 5-year-old I think daughter sat down next to some of us and wanted to play Uno. A coworker of mine sitting next to her made some comments about how cute it was, that she wanted to play games, and was generally extra patronizing. The 5-year-old dealt the cards and proceeded to destroy us. I assume she had some help stacking the deck, but her entire hand was full of the draw fours. By the time she said Uno, the girl who had said she was cute was ready to dropkick her, but couldn't because she was holding 20 plus cards. Similar thing happened to us at a coworker's barbecue and game night. A little kid asked to play Skulls, which is a betting and bluffing game with tokens basically. We thought it'd be cute at first till she annihilated us 3 rounds in a row. I know your pain. I was once sitting at a table of 3 other adults while a 6-year-old dominated us all at Domino's. Growing up, the next door neighbor kid was a total bully to everyone. He literally pushed you around and knocked you down for hours while laughing just because he was taller and stronger. He also fashioned a homemade whip he beat our dogs with over our fence once. Problems ended though when one day he told my brother something about my mother I can't repeat, and my brother just lost all expression on his face. The kid was 1.5 feet taller and about 60 pounds heavier than my brother. Without a word my brother leaned forward and shoved his shoulder into his chest as he wrapped his other skinny green bean arm around the kid and pulled him off his feet and over his head and just drove this kid's head into the ground by bending over backwards. He nearly killed that snot-nosed kid by breaking his neck. He had to have surgery and wear a neck brace for almost 6 months after that one thing my brother did to him. We started joking about my bro hulking out after that lol. My youngest daughter was getting picked on in elementary school by a boy who was 2 grades above her. He constantly taunted, pushed, and annoyed her. One day he pushed her from behind and she dropped her books. She immediately turned around and full-on kicked him square in the nuts with all the force a soccer playing leg could muster. I've been told he curled up and bawled for several minutes while my daughter was sent to the principal's office. She was smiling when her mother picked her up from school. Identical thing happened to my workmate's daughter when she snapped she kneed her bully in the nuts, and when he bent over she then drove her knee into his nose. He never picked on her again. The old bull shot followed by the coup de grace to the nose. One of the moves every kid should be taught. That and headbutting, or palm stroking the nose, or the eye poke. Or was my dad just weird like that too? When I was in middle school, a pair of guys were going around forcibly kissing girls as part of a bet. One of them did this to me, and without even thinking, I punched him in the face. He was on the floor, hand over his face, blood pouring from between his fingers, and looking utterly shell-shocked. I looked around, and there were no witnesses, so I leaned in and snapped, "You're not going to tell anyone about this, are you? Or I'll break something else." He shook his head rapidly, and I ran off to tell a teacher that I saw a student fall face first. About a week later, I saw him again at school, and he had some kind of cast guard across his nose. The color drained from his face when we made eye contact. I still feel guilty. I still feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. He deserved it. I had a practical work time in a company while I was studying. While pay is not mandatory, the owner promised, because I did more than was required by the school, while he wasn't even there on some days 3 months later. While it was over, he more or less said goodbye and forgot about pay. When I asked, he responded that he's not doing well right now so can't. Well, that was a mistake. I knew he used some pirated software for PC maintenance, had CDs etc with pirated stuff. I compiled a list with details and how I was made to use pirated software. Sent a letter to proper authorities. A month later, when I happened to walk by, the building business space was for sale, and it was closed. He lost his company, and likely got fined, all because he was stingy. 10-year-old me seeing my dad's face when I didn't want to do the dishes, and told my mom that she should do them, because she did nothing around the house. I don't know how I survived tbh. The stupidity of what I said is compounded by the fact that those were the dishes of a meal that my mom had cooked by herself from scratch, like she did almost every night. Did the same. My mom told me to clean my room. I told her, "Why don't you clean yours? It's worse than mine." In the middle of dinner that night she said, "Why don't you tell your father what you said to me today?" Postponed horror. What a move. Wait till your father gets home. You didn't really survive. Since that day, you are in a coma. It has lasted 4 years already. Please wake up. I didn't personally witness these, but these are some good stories I've read in the past. In a town where at least half the citizens pack heat, a man walks around a police car to go into a gun store and tries to rob the place. He fired his gun into the ceiling and yelled, "This is a robbery." The store owner and the cop shot the guy, and about everyone else in the store had drawn on him as well. A man robbed a toy store, and on his way out there was a group of 4 Marines who were manning a Toys for Tots drive. That man bumped into one of the Marines and stabbed him. According to the police report, the man then fell off the curb, which is when he experienced a broken jaw, broken nose, dislocated elbow, 2 black eyes, and several broken ribs, and contusions all over his body. A coworker took really good care of her handicapped son until he died. We were working customer service, and one man wanted to return a merchandise bought by his son. BTW, we offered to take back the merchandise and reimbursed him, talking in a very loud and angry tone. He began to accuse us of scamming his boy. His son was at least 20, and told us that it was because we probably weren't parents that we did it. This was just a couple of days after the would-be birthday of my coworker's son, so she was already really emotional. He made a big mistake. Words were said, and it felt like she ate him alive. He left with his tail between his legs. I think that's the kind of man who spent his life bullying others. That day, he went after the wrong person. Didn't witness it, but it was all over the news some years ago. In Los Angeles, a guy tries to hijack a van. Canadian Olympic judo team was in that van, including the trainer. To quote one of the members of that team, he did not know what hit him. Judo is the art of hitting someone with the planet, so probably that. Nice. Fits with my other favorite martial arts description, Aikido, the gentle oriental art of folding people. I think Jiu-Jitsu is better, the art of folding clothes with people still in them. Wing Chun, the ancient art of stop hitting yourself. In Hapkido, my teacher always said the guiding principle of Hapkido is that everything is a weapon. Everything. When I was around 13 or 14, my friends and I were out playing around in a park near my friend's house when an older teen came up to us and started threatening us for no reason. He started saying stuff like I've got a gun and talking about how tough he is because he's from Detroit. My friend's older brother happened to walk down the street and see what was going on. My friend's brother is super laid back, so he doesn't want to fight the guy, but the guy wants to fight him. The brother didn't throw a single punch, he just grabbed onto him and threw him to the ground a few times. The guy's demeanor changed immediately after hitting the ground about 3 times. He then tried to befriend the brother quite unsuccessfully. I was told that I could not attend a 6th to 8th grade school that had a special art program because of my skin color. I'm white and my home school would not release me to attend the other school that I had to apply for because they needed more white students. My mother took on the school district and got the policy changed. You are now allowed to attend any school in the district as long as you don't bump a home student. This was in the early 90s in Southern California. The schooling system in LAUSD is still ridiculously racist and has a bunch of little pro-segregationist rules and loopholes to justify itself. I wonder how they continue to keep getting away with it. A couple of years ago me and a few friends were walking home after a night of drinking and clubbing. When walking home me and my group of friends walk past a group of other guys who just as intoxicated as us. One of the guys from this other group of guys decides to spit in the face of my friend who just so happens to be an MMA fighter. Before me and my friends even get the chance to even turn around to see what has happened, my friend the MMA fighter has 2 guys on the floor, one KO and the other on the floor in a headlock. Of all the people out and about that night in the town, that guy had to spit in the face of an MMA fighter and he definitely paid the price. Okay, so my bus driver back when I was like 6 or 7 didn't know we had mental disabilities. She was very mean to us the whole way home because me and my brother, we were fighting. We tell our mom about it, goes up to the bus driver, and when she comes back to the car, she's crying. The bus driver used various cuss words and a pretty harsh insult. My dad comes home about at 4 or 5 p.m. We all tell him about the incident, and he raves mad at the principal and the district, and we are moved to a new bus. Oh, and the old bus driver was fired. Now that I think about it, that's so badass.